Welcome, students. We have done this chapter. Half we have done this chapter. The Mysterious Visitor, written by H.G. Wells, Howard George Wells. And we were reading this chapter. So, as recapitulation, I would like to tell you something about the chapter that this is an extract from The Invisible Men. This is the story of a scientist who discovered the secret of invisibility and applied it on himself. But he don't know how to reverse the process. He tried, but he failed. Now, as he was invisible and want to live like normal, to show himself normal, what he did, he just moves around with a bandage. He tied bandage on his face, okay, and covered his hands with the gloves and hat with a hat. And he was living. The chapter started when he was coming back to his inn, name Coach and Horses, where when he was asking for food and he was shouting on the staff of the inn. Then the owner of the inn was a lady there, and she was asking for money and he was asking for food. In return, she asked him to pay the amount of the hotel, and she asked many questions. If you want food, she asked that he has to answer of his questions. She asked many questions, and the man just warned him by shouting at her, "Stop." She wanted to know many things, like how he entered in the room, how he just remained in the room, and how it was possible for him to just live like in that condition. Finally, he started answer. Why what? Why doing some things? Like we were here to answer of the questions of the lady, he firstly put something in her hand. And what was it? For the surprise, it was the nose of the person. And as she watched it, she just dropped the thing to the floor. And everyone who were present there in the drinking room cried out in surprise as the visitor, lifted his glasses, and then the hat, and then he started just taking out the bandage and the false hair. Now we are going to continue. The truth was becoming too much to take. Mrs. Hall cried out in a fear and left the room. The truth was becoming too much to take. It was not acceptable what has been done, what was going on in the room. Okay? Mrs. Hall cried out in fear and left the room. She was very much afraid and she left the room. All the others wanted to see what this strange man looked like. But now there was nothing to see. Everyone who were present there wanted to see, but nothing was there to see. No face and no hair. Bandages and false hair were flying across the room, and all the people in it were running to get out of the front door of the pub. The man they all had waited to see was a man without a head. See, When he took out his hat, when he took out his bandage, and when he just removed the glasses, they want to see. If you are wearing a hat and you just took it out, then what is there? Then you can see the hair. After the hat, he just removed false hair also, and there was nothing. Everything just floating in the air. And when everyone was there and when they were watching, it was really astonished. They were really very much amazed, very much surprised that there was nothing to see. They only can see a man without a head. How the person can be without a head? Because he was invisible. As he just become invisible, but he don't know how to reverse the process. Okay, people on the road could hear the shouting. They all were shouted. If you are going to see such things, then you all be surprised and you can shout. So they all were shouting inside the inn, and those who were outside the inn, those who were on the road, okay, they just came there. They were running. When they looked up the road to the coach and horses, they were seeing people fall over each other trying to get out of the door. What they have noticed? Everyone just afraid of the things, and they were just running here and there. They were trying out to just running out of the door. Okay, they were trying to get out of the door. In a short time, 40 people or more were at the door trying to see what was going on. Around 40 people were there, and they were trying to see what's going on. They were the people who were selling lollies, the entertainers, boys and girls, well dressed men, women, old people and poor people. They all wanted to talk at the same time, and no one was listening. A small group was helping Mrs. Hall, who had collapsed again. So whomsoever was there want to see what's going on. And it was a special day. So who were there? The person who were selling lollies, the entertainer, boys, girls who were moving here and there, the men and women who were well dressed and came there to just have enjoy, to do enjoy, old people, poor people. They all want to ask something. They want the answer of their questions. They were asking, but no one was ready to listen. No one was ready to answer what was going on. At that time, a small group was who was helping Mrs. Hall. Mrs. Hall, what was her condition? She just collapsed again. Means when a person was standing in front of you and sudden off he was removing everything, and what you see? Nothing. So you will be afraid. Next paragraph and the last of this page. There was a noise from behind. The people moved to one side for three men who were walking confidently towards the pub. First was Hall, very red in the face, then Mr. Bobby Jeffer, the town policeman, and then Wedgers. They were coming to take the visitor to prison. Okay, in that condition of chaos, there was a noise from behind. People who were moving here and there. Okay, at the one side, three men were coming confidently, were walking confidently, and they were moving towards the pub. And who were they? The three people were Hall, who were very red, who were having red face, Mr. Bobby Jeffer, who was the policeman of the town, and then the Wedger, those they all were coming there to the pub to take the visitor to the prison. Now here in this picture you can see that here is invisible man who is putting his nose in the hand of the Mrs. Hall, and as he put the nose he just left it and it fell down on the floor. Means a person is here visible only because he is wearing coat, wearing trouser, wearing gloves, wearing bandage. But one by one, if he is going to remove all the things, then there will be nothing. There is a man, but totally invisible. So this was the condition. Okay, I hope the chapter is quite clear to you. Watch the video again. Okay, and you will do one thing also, mark the difficult question from your chapter, write down meaning, and also find out the synonym of the same words. Okay, so we will start next chapter in the next video, but before that we will do some comprehension of the mysterious visitor part 1. So here moving to the comprehension. Comprehension, right, true or false. These questions are from the chapter. We will discuss these. Now A. Part A with right, true or false. The angry man looked through the curtains and shouted at the young man. Yes or no? True or false? Yes, true. Now, its second part. The visitor offered to pay Mrs. Hall when she went to him with the bill. The visitor offered to pay? No, he was asking for food. So, this is false. Third, Mrs. Hall wanted to know what the visitor had been doing with her table. She wanted to know, yes, definitely. She was having a lot of questions, but did she ask for the visitor that what had visitor doing with her table? No, she never mentioned table. It is false. When the stranger, next is fourth, when the stranger took off his bandage, his head became visible. Took off his bandage, his head became visible. Yes or no? True or false? It was invisible. That's why everyone was shouting. False. Mr. Wedgett was the town policeman. No, it was Jaffer who was the policeman. This one is also false. Now moving to the next one. Read the sentences and answer the questions. This is reference to context. And part 1. And I want you to keep your shouting and your talking to God to yourself. Reminder dialogue. Who said these words and to whom? Who said this? Yes, Mrs. Hall said these words to the mysterious visitor. Next, why had the person been shouting and talking to God? Question B. Why had the person been shouting and talking to God? Here the person is visitor, mysterious visitor, and why he was shouting? The person had been shouting and talking to God because Mrs. Hall had not yet given him his food, and she was also asking for money, that he was 5 days late in making his payment or in his paying the bill. Now, why was the speaker arguing with the person? Why was the speaker arguing with the person? Mrs. Hall was arguing with the person because he was 5 days late in paying her for his room and the food. For his lodging and the food. Okay. Now moving to the next one. Second, and where did you find it? And where did you find it? Question A. Who said these words and to whom? Mrs. Hall said these words to the mysterious visitor. Next question. What does it refer to here? Means what is it here? Here the it refer to the sum money that the visitor had in his pocket, which he was offering to Mrs. Hall. Okay. C part is what made the speaker ask this question. He was just become furious. So what was the reason? Mrs. Hall asked this question because earlier the visitor had told her that he had only a few coins. However, this time he was producing more coins from his pocket to pay his bill. She wanted to know from where he got the money. Okay. Next, you do not understand who I am or what I am. I'll show you. You don't understand who I am or what I am. Who said this? Question is same. Who said these words and to whom? The mysterious visitor said these words to Mrs. Hall. Next question is, what did the speaker do to show you? To show you? To show you, that is Mrs. Hall, the mysterious visitor put his hand over his face and pulled out his face false pink nose and put it in her hand. He did the same? Yes. Next question is, how did the listener react to the speaker's action? Listener, Mrs. Hall. Is she was a listener? Yes. Mrs. Hall reacted to the mysterious visitor's actions by dropping his false nose on the floor. On the floor. Okay. Now answer these questions. These we are having 5 questions. So one by one we will discuss these questions. Question 1 is, what was the little group of people at the coach and horses talking about? Coach and horses, the name of the inn. So what was the little group was talking about? Answer is, the little group of people at the coach and horses were talking about the robbery at the vicar's house. Okay. So he was having in doubt. She was having in doubt. He and she both means the staff and the lady. Next question is, why was the visitor angry? Why was he angry? Do you really agree that he was hungry? Yes or no? Then we will frame the answer. So why was the visitor angry? The visitor was angry because he was hungry, yet nobody was bringing him any food. Nobody was bringing him any food. Okay. Next question is, why did Mrs. Hall refuse to get him any food? Why? Answer is, because Mrs. Hall uh, was not ready to give her food, or Mrs. Hall refused to get him any food because he was 5 days late in paying his previous bill. He was having no money and he was asking for food. And think, if last 5 days if a person did not pay the bill, then is it possible to give? No. First of all, you have to make payment. Fourth, what did Mrs. Hall want to know from the visitor? She was having a lot of questions. How you will write the answer? If you are going to write each and every question, then it will become the longer one. So write in a short one like answer is Mrs. Hall wanted to know from the visitor where he got the additional coins he was offering her at that moment. Just a minute. Yes. Mrs. Hall wanted to know from the visitor where he got the additional coins he was offering her at that moment, because earlier he told her that he had only a few coins with him. Only a few coins with him. Last question of part C. It is, what made the people in the pub cry out in surprise and fear? What made the people in the pub cry out in surprise and fear? And the answer is here. Why were they shouting and why were they surprised? They have seen something mysterious. They have seen something strange. So answer is, the people in the pub cried out in surprise and fear because the truth about the mysterious visitor was finally revealed. He, mysterious person, he had pulled out his false pink nose and handed it to Mrs. Hall. Then he took off his hat, pulled at his large false hair and bandages which were flying across the room. All this pointed out that the mysterious visitor was an invisible man. Okay, it was an invisible man. Now here think and answer. When the visitor said, "Look here, my good woman," Mrs. Hall replied, "Do not good woman mean?" What do you think the visitor and Mrs. Hall were trying to do? What were they trying to do? What do you think? Now the options are: the visitor was trying to calm Mrs. Hall down, but Mrs. Hall wanted to remain angry. The visitor was trying the visitor was trying to be polite, but Mrs. Hall did not want to listen. Okay. The visitor was trying to calm Mrs. Hall down, but Mrs. Hall did not want to be fooled again by the visitor. So what is the answer? I think answer is want to remain angry, want to listen. Answer is C. The visitor was trying to calm Mrs. Hall down, but Mrs. Hall did not want to be fooled again by the visitor. Now second is, why do you think the visitor suddenly started to take off his bandages? Why? Now just find out the answer from the option given. First one, A1 is, he was feeling very hot in the bandages. He wanted to show Mrs. Hall that he was invisible. He wanted to scare Mrs. Hall. Yes, he knows if he's going to open the bandages, then obviously everyone will be scared. So here answer and option D is both B and C, means option B and C both are the answers. Yes, so correct answer is option D, because it proves that B and C both are right. So here your mysterious visitor we have done. Thank you for being a patient listener. Okay. Thank you and have a nice day, students.